Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering. Here we have Tyler on Ant versus the one and only Jerry Meme on, of course, Sneak and Show. Going to be looking to put a fatty into play, either through Show and Tell or Sneak Attack. And Emrakul and Gristlebrand are the usual suspects. We've got Tyler on Ant, and that is not a typo. That is actually Ant, not Tess. Fast in Flames opens you up to some graveyard hate, but man, it is a powerful card. Also has flashback, potentially a absolute must counter with flashback. Make for some crippling turns, or sometimes you just run it out there, catch a Force of Will, and do it again. Of course, with the printing of Force of Negation, a little less exciting, as it's very possible that the somewhat clunky spell can just be exiled, moving the entire upside of that flashback. And of course, you do have to worry about protecting your graveyard, or I guess just worry about the vulnerability of your graveyard. There's not a ton you can do to protect it. Now we've got a Infernal Tutor, finding Dark Ritual. Tyler loading up his hand, be extremely explosive. Say that many times with Infernal Tutor, Cabal Ritual, or Dark Ritual, or Lion's Eye Diamond, all incredibly powerful in multiples. Wow, and Wishclaw Talisman as well. This is looking like it's going to get hit with a Spell Pierce, so 2 Dark Rituals left in hand. Wishclaw is countered. Tyler could have jammed a Dark Ritual into this Wishclaw. Wanted to play around Spell Pierce, but see how much threat density he has. Sometimes you can just trade these tutors 1-for-1 for counters until your opponent's out of them. Continuing to make land drops, making cards like Spell Pierce significantly worse. Flusterstorm's still dangerous. Mana base for these Storm decks, pretty difficult to nail down. I've jammed some tests recent months, and I found the mana base to be continually frustrating. Also having really good results with it. There were just a lot of times where it felt like, oh, I really wish I could have like a volcanic island in a particular situation, or a dual land, which wasn't in the list. Got a Veil of Summer just being jammed. Harry's going to brainstorm in response. So if this Veil resolves now, Tyler is going to get an additional card off of it. Or a card, period. Just let that Veil resolve. Not going to be able to counter anything for the rest of the turn. Flusterstorm adds to the storm count. Veil does go away. You have to be careful playing against Flusterstorm. You don't want to have multiple things on the stack to get countered by the same Flusterstorm with all of its copies. Flusterstorm and Spell Pierce. So many counters from the other side of the table. Dark Ritual to the bin. On the storm count, now a Past in Flames. He's tapped out, and it looks like this thing's resolving. Now this I believe he's got everything in there. Oh, and now he's got an extra Infernal. There you go. So Infernal Tutor. He's got 3 mana. Infernal for LED allows for the extra mana. In a situation where you're down on mana, you can actually use Infernal to go get Lion's Eye Diamond or Cabal Ritual to net an extra mana. And that's exactly what Tyler does. gets to 6 mana, plays the other Infernal Tutor, grabs the Tendrils. That is a wrap. They played a lot of Ant prior to enjoying the current S builds. And there's one data point. I mean, the graveyard was super powerful there. Of course, that is game 1. Games 2 and 3, the graveyard can certainly become a liability, though really only the one card, just that single Past in Flames, that gets shut off, though it is very often the line that you're hoping to take. Let me know what you think about Ant versus Tess in the comments. Here we have a Grafdigger's Cage, which is going to shut off the graveyard unless answered. I think Ant is a reasonable choice, or do you feel like it's kind of a second-rate Tess? I've seen people make both arguments. Elrod, wow, that is an absolute bomb here from Sneak and Show, and not necessarily something that you expect. I haven't taken a look at lists lately, but Sneak and Show does run Lotus Petals. Elrod, obviously a non-bow with that, but Tyler's got those LEDs as well, which can be very important to go Hellbent. Getting down to 0 cards in hand for Infernal. Plus fetch land for Jerry. Players looking to optimize their hands, but there's an awful lot of hate on the board here. This feels like it might be enough as it is. I mean, I guess if you let Ant hang around long enough, they will eventually get you. Jerry is going to need to get something on board. Unfortunately for him, it can't be a Delver of Secrets or a Dragon Rage channel or something that'll just eventually get there. He is going to need to combo off on his side of the table to get the W, no matter how much of a lock this is. I suppose unless Tyler opts to scoop it up, have more time for the final game. Wow, Blood Moon as well. That is an unpleasant one to play against. He's got the basic swamp, so just black and red mana from here. Abrupt Decay, the type of response you're hoping for in response to a Blood Moon. Really, the Null Rod, incredibly strong now, as Lotus Petal doesn't give you any mana, never mind mana fixing. That extra color can often be what's necessary to get your Assassin's Trophy or similar answer. See a pair of Force of Wills and an Emrakul. At this point, Jerry's just waiting for a show and tell or a sneak attack to show up. He's got the mana. Just needs to find it. Surgical has taken some brainstorms. I don't really love that. I mean, Brainstorm's not amazing with Blood Moon on board, I'm not going to lie. One of my favorite cards. I think it's absolutely incredible. Like, one of the reasons why I love Magic so much. But at the end of the day, if you can't shuffle, like Brainstorm didn't see very much play at all till like Mercadian Masks with Land Grant. That was actually quite good that stage. But short of that, I mean, Hardcast Force of Will on Dark Ritual, it was pretty underwhelming. I mean, control decks certainly weren't running 4 Brainstorms. We're always looking to have this bulk card advantage. rather than smoothing things out prior to the printing of fetches. Another Dark Ritual, and Jerry just throwing forces at these. Got tons of mana. Another Blood Moon. I don't know if Jerry's just planning on hard casting Emrakul at this point. Got 7 mana. There's the show and tell. He's done it. What a powerful wizard. Oh, and he's got the Gristlebrand. Well, you look at that. So he draws 7 here. Might be able to draw a sneak attack. Get them both on board. A sneak attack to go along with this Gristlebrand. Another Dark Ritual. This one catches another Force of Will. Gristlebrand now representing a 3-turn clock. Obviously could be faster if a Emrakul joins in. There's a sneak attack. Emrakul shows up, annihilating Tyler's board in just an absolute slog of a game. Just so much hate on board. That was a gross one. Game 3, Tyler will have the play. All of that permanent-based hate. Interesting. I think just as a general rule, permanent-based hate is the least effective in the top 8, I would argue. So just from a theoretical perspective, the weaker the opponent, the more difficulty they're going to have playing around particular pieces of hate. Jerry just going to jam a turn 1 show and tell like a pro here. Volcanic, Lotus Petal, Lotus Petal. Nope, Grafdigger's Cage. A card like Blood Moon, for example, the stronger the player, the more easily they can play around it. Now, you can jam that on the first turn. Sometimes there's just no playing around it. They don't have any basics. Their hand's full of fetches, and you just get them. That said, the more skillful the player, the more likely it is that they make the correct decisions utilizing their fetch lands and their cantrips to not just get absolutely decimated by a card like Blood Moon. I think that, by definition, means, when you're getting to your top 8, the most skillful players are going to be left standing, meaning that those permanent-based solutions, things like Grafdigger's Cage, just end up being weaker there. It can be a little misleading, I suppose, your results in testing. Your testing partners, for example, take lines that walk right into Grafdigger's Cage. I can't tell you, it sounds ridiculous, but I've seen it so many times where people actually are building a game plan that forgets about the fact that there's a Grafdigger's Cage on board, and they'll just play a spell that just will not work because of Cage. And, they've taken all of their decisions in the game to get to that point. That's a complete disaster. And obviously not going to happen as people get truly familiar with the deck that they're playing and playing around hate. Cage certainly pulling its weight so far. Actually, I guess it's not certain. We don't really know what's in Tyler's hand. It could be doing legit nothing. I take it back. I want to falsely attribute the game state to this Grafdigger's Cage. It could actually just be totally useless right now. A Wishclaw Talisman. Gets a hard cast Force. Oh, and Veil of Summer. Got a Flusterstorm. That will stop the Veil. Couple of counters out of Jerry's hand. Storm count of 4. And it looks like it's going to be relevant. I believe Tyler's going to let all of this resolve. So Force of Will says no to the Wishclaw Talisman. Spell Pierce backs it up, stopping that Veil of Summer. And we've got a Cabal Ritual for 5 black, 8 black now. Ritual, one of my favorite cards. Lion's Eye Diamond, all the mana. Does he have a tutor? Is this over? Oh, it's got a Nauseam already in hand. All right, so this is probably over. Does a ton of mana and Storm here. And that, I think, does it right there. He's already got the LED on board. Be able to Dark Ritual into Infernal Tutor. He's got the Veil of Summer just in case Jerry was a mad lad and was letting the Ad Nauseam resolve, hoping to stop whatever came after it. I don't think anybody's making that play, certainly not on camera. Force of Will and Emrakul left in hand. Look at that. Ad Nauseam just getting dropped out of nowhere, winning the battle over Wishclaw Talisman. The real battle of being Ad Nauseam for the win as Tyler picks up a very tight match.